What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. Tonight, we have another great show ahead of you for tonight. We're going to break down a little bit of the Chargers game and a look ahead at the Week 3 matchup against the banged-up Cleveland Browns. Sammy, start us up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans! He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We got the man back from Nashville in one piece. Then, how was the birthday weekend? How was the bachelor party? How was the game? Tell me everything about Nashville this weekend.
Well, to respect the privacy of some of my friends, I will not tell you everything that went down. We would probably need an attorney present, but it was a lot of fun, of course. You know, we ripped Broadway for a few days. We did Honky Tonks. We did Kid Rock's Bar, Aldean's, Old Red, Barstool Bar. Went to the Assembly Food place where they have just a gazillion different, vendors in one place. It's a giant food hall. Went to Martin's for some barbecue. Phenomenal.
Shout out Martin's. I love that place, man.
Went to Prince's fried chicken in the Assembly food hall. Was very good. A great time. Came back in one piece. I'm still catching up on some sleep though, for sure. But it was well worth it for my last bash. And the game Sunday was the icing on the cake, because we took care of business and it wasn't looking promising from the start. I think we had 7 total yards in the first quarter. We were down 11 points. Tannehill, looked abysmal. I'll admit I was screaming to bench him, and I kind of had some support.
So was your Twitter account too, by the way, because you got a lot of heat on that post, picture that you posted. I don't know why, man. People don't know your personality yet. It's crazy, but whatever.
I mean, clearly I was like half joking, half not, but I was also in a state of mind where, I might not have been thinking that clearly, but it's all in fun. And listen, Sal said it in his post game last week. Of course, we want Tannehill to succeed. I want nothing more for him than to put up gaudy numbers and take us to a deep playoff run. But he's done nothing as of recent to prove that. And this game Sunday, hopefully, was him turning the page on the last, the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Because he turned it on in the second half, and there's some people out there saying that I might have just revitalized his season and possibly his career. So,
hope so.
So I appreciate you, you asking about it. It was a great success. The trip, there was no arrests, no hospital visits, and we're on the Cleveland, as Belichick would like to say. We're on the Cincinnati, and we're on the Cleveland.
Well, before we get to Cleveland, I really want your take on the game, what your thoughts of the defense was. Obviously, you said the offense scared you a little bit in the first quarter. It scared me after the first 3 drives because, everybody started saying the thing on Twitter. Oh, I think it's time. But me, as a 17 supporter on this podcast, I knew it wasn't that time yet, because right after those three drives, the following 3 drives, we had 215 yards. So the offense started picking up real quick. So just your thought on that real quick.
I mean, it was abysmal in the first quarter. And like I said, I was screaming, bench him after, the first quarter. And I was getting some support within my section. But he turned it on in the second half. But the game was, we got our money's worth. It's the second time I've been to an overtime game in person. The Jets Titans game 2 years ago when me, you, and Sal were there, went into overtime. But it was a great game, and a couple things that stuck out to me were the defense. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons is just phenomenal. He really is. I mean, he is a generational type talent. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before he is the best defensive tackle in the league. Aaron Donald's time is coming to an end. There's Chris Jones, there's Quentin Williams, but in my opinion, no one really compares to the strength and raw power and tenacity of Jeffrey Simmons, and just the violence that which he plays with is just, it's really stands him, apart from the rest, in my opinion. And one of my favorite offseason pickups, Azeez Al-Shaair, has been all over the place. He really has. It seemed like every other play over the loudspeaker they're saying, and Azeez Al-Shaair with the tackle. He was great. Our secondary tends to scare me a little bit. It has definitely seemed to be the weak point of our defense right now. But we were without Christian Fulton, who I'm just about done with him. I said last year,
soft tish.
We'll call soft tish, man, and I'm done with the soft tish. Let some other team deal with that. I said in the offseason that should he struggle to stay on the field early, don't be surprised if we try to move him for some draft capital. So we were without him, which is difficult because he is a starter, even though he can't stay on the field. We were without Monty Hooker. That was tough as well. But Trey Avery, he was targeted a lot, and he caught some slack. He did. I mean, they targeted him a lot.
15 times.
Yeah, I'll also give him some credit for stepping in and making some decent plays as well.
Yep.
It's not easy when you're being targeted all the time, and you're not going against the receiving core that is lacking talent. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are one of the better duos in the league.
And Johnson too. He's another big guy too.
Oh yeah, they got Parham. They have Everett. I mean, it's not an offense that lacks skill positions around the quarterback. So, I give him credit for stepping up. Murphy Bunting had some good, had some bad. I saw Sal hating on him a little bit, but he had a very key breakup. I believe it was in the fourth quarter, maybe even overtime, where he came in last minute and swatted the ball away. It was a deep ball to, I want to say, Mike Williams along the Chargers sideline. He had a phenomenal breakup. Byard had a phenomenal stuff to player on third down it was to cause a fourth down at a certain point in the second half. We know what we're getting out of him. But that defensive line is ferocious. I mean, Autry might be the best free agent signing that John Robinson gave us. I mean,
100%.
he drafted the likes of Simmons and Byard and Henry, but free agent signings, he missed on a lot of them. And I give him credit because he took chances. I have nothing against that. But Danico Autry, my God, he seemed to be really a revelation. And I'll tell you what, re-sign him now. Don't waste any time. I think his deal is up at the end of the year. Sign him now. Give him whatever 10, 12 million a year. I think he is entirely worth it.
And he's up there in age too, and he's still playing the way he's playing. It's absolutely incredible.
Aside from Jeffrey Simmons, he's the best pure defensive lineman we have. We're not talking like edge talent here. That's a little different. But as far as being a guy in the middle that can make a difference, man, he is all over the place. Even and someone like Tahir Tart, got to give a lot of credit to, had just a sick swim move on a player in the on one of their linemen, I think in the second half, and tackled the running back for a loss. So this defensive line is going to be a problem all year. I really believe that. And hopefully we get healthier in the secondary, and hopefully they not only get healthier, but improve upon, what they've showed us so far, because I was a little worried at the end of the game that, they went down the field fast, and I thought
like Swiss cheese, man. It's like, it feels like every week a team does that the defense just goes right down. I knew that the field goal was coming, in my opinion. I said, they're going to tie this game. We're going to overtime.
When it was 17-14, and my friends will admit to it, I turned to them and I said, 24-24, we're going into overtime. You just watch. And, not to pat myself on the shoulder, but I will. I called it. I felt it. And, luckily we won the game in overtime. And it was a great game. It was a fun experience. The crowd was noisy, although like every other time I've been to a Titans game in Nashville, there's always opposing teams, fans there. So, you hate to see that sometimes, because there was times during the game where we were just deflated, and it seemed like their fan base kind of took over for certain points during the game, noise wise. But other than that, offensively was atrocious early. Like, I think we had one first down for actually, I don't think we had any first downs in the first quarter. I think
first three drives was rough.
Yeah, I think we only had 7 yards. And we'll elaborate on it more, because I want to hear what you and Sal had to say, because I didn't get to watch the live show. Tannehill did look better, but he still looks very statuesque in the pocket. Whereas if the offensive line is pushed back and disrupts his pocket, he just stands still. Like, he doesn't try to move east and west. He doesn't step up in the pocket. it seems like he stands there and just ends up taking the sack. I'll give him credit. That pass to Treylon Burks is what turned the momentum around, which is hilarious too because DeAndre Hopkins was wide open in the middle of the field where we could have gained the easy 30, 40 yards, but he decided to chuck it to Treylon, and I mean, it seemed like that ball was in the air for a minute. And
it was technically the longest throw and the longest air time of any quarterback so far this year. So it's crazy.
I saw that stat. And Treylon came down with it, and it was a beautiful pass. And it seemed like the momentum changed after that. And I'll tell you what, Tim Kelly seems like he's in his bag, man. He's getting creative. I give him credit. It's a breath of fresh air that we scored as many points as we did in any game we did last year, but we did it in week 2 this year. Yeah. So we already eclipsed our highest scoring total from all of last year, just 2 weeks into this season. So it seems like we're getting good things out of him. We're using Tajay Spears a little more than I thought. But did I not say that? Did I not say this kid is going to see the field early?
He is, but he's seen it way too much, in my opinion, right now. He's out. He out gained. He out-touched him in week 1, and now he almost out-touched him, I think. No, he didn't out-touch him. He touched him 30 times. Yeah, but he had touched it 29 times, Henry. So it was a little different game plan. But listen, Tajay Spears is going to break one. He's going to be like lightning when it comes out of the backfield one of these weekends. But me and Sal last week, I know you didn't get to watch the live, but me and Sal, we talked about how, well, I'm going to talk about it, how I want to just throw week 1 out the window just because it's week 1. It was preseason week 4. We all got on Tannehill. Tannehill, he said he was going to step up. He did. Now let's see what he does going into a very tough environment and with the Cleveland Browns. And if he does it against the Browns and he comes back a week 4 against the Bengals, I'm going to say he's back. Okay, because he had a really, really good game from the second quarter going on. And you've seen even in the second half this week how everything started changing. He started rolling out the pocket a little bit more, how Tim Kelly started scheming up plays. He wasn't in the pocket as much. Yes, that needs to change. I don't know what happened to that because in 19 and 20
more play action as well.
Yes, that and like Tyler said from TikTok Titans, he said that he's getting older, so he's not going to be able to do the mobility as much. But my man still had Tanner wheels, and he had that little option. He ran.
That was
what was your thought? We tried to get in the video. What was your thought on that when he ran it in? Because I said to myself, "Holy shit, Salvini must be going nuts after that."
I mean, first off, it was a phenomenal play call, which only like I just said. Shout out Tim Kelly. I mean, he's been diving into that bag pretty deep the first few weeks. Phenomenal play call. I actually thought he was going to pitch it, to be honest with you, in live action. I thought he was going to pitch it because it seemed like Henry could have just moonwalked into the end zone. But
he needed that for all the doubters, though.
I was just going to say, I think in his head, last second, he said, F it. I'm holding on to this. I'm lowering my shoulder. I want the fans here who have doubted me of late to know that I'm still committed and I will lay my hat on the line for this team. And I give him credit for doing that. It was a phenomenal play call, and I'd love to see more creativity like that. Nothing like a little option play with your 260-pound lineman, 260-pound running back there to be able to pitch the ball to should you need. So phenomenal play call. I love that. And, he stepped up. He did. But guess what? It's a long year, and I'm not trying to sound pessimistic. I'm not trying to doubt him. But I would love for him to keep this up the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
And I will gladly eat my words with that picture because I already got people making fun of me, posting pictures of themselves underneath the Tannehill banner saying he's great, he rocks,
whatever. But like I said, like I told Sal and everybody, I would love everybody who like thought that was like crazy. Come on our show and have a conversation with us because we're not those kind of guys. We're the funny guys that make everything funny because we want to win too. Because deep down in our hearts right now, we want that Super Bowl trophy as much as you guys do. So laugh a little bit.
And here's the thing too with that. Am I not allowed to be critical of a fan? You
Absolutely
want your team to win. 100%. I want Tannehill to be the best quarterback in the league. I've supported him, I think, not maybe as much as you, but within my friend group and people that know me where I'm from, I've always said, he's a middle tier guy who, when he plays at his best, can be a top 10 to top 12 guy. But at his worst, he could be, a guy who's around the 20 spot when it comes to ranking quarterbacks. So I'm in his corner. I want him to do well. I take him for what he is, though. I think he's a mediocre quarterback who, when given the opportunity with players around him, can succeed. And if not, he's going to struggle. He's not necessarily going to win you many games on his own, but sometimes you feel like he'll
definitely proved it on. He definitely proved it on Sunday, though.
For sure. But my whole thing, before I go on a tangent with that picture, is, am I not allowed to be critical? There's people saying, don't bring that energy. You're not a real fan. You're not this. You're that. This ain't it, man. What do you want me to do? Like, sit there and say that his performance, not only week 1, but the last 2 years, has been anything other than abysmal, let's say, really? I mean, it's been god-awful the last few years. So excuse me for having a little passion and being fed up with them. So I understand the hate I got, but I really wish people would be more understanding with the fact that, that is my personality. I'm a smart aleck. And also, I'm allowed to be critical of anyone I want. I don't care who you are. We've all called out players in the past, coaches in the past. So, forget what everyone
Todd Downing.
Todd Downing. Forget about wait, listen, Sal's been critical of Vrabel more than anybody. No one's really safe, and I think that's fair. As a fan, you have a right to voice your opinion. When you're spending money on jerseys, signed jerseys, banners, you're supporting that team financially. So if I feel like I have the right to speak my opinion no matter what. But when I spend my hard-earned money, showing them love with signed jerseys and cards and banners and going to games and spend thousands of dollars on my bachelor party. So better believe I'm going to say what's on my mind. Granted, I didn't think that picture was going to take off the way it did. I think we're at 170,000 views on it. But it will be a great picture throughout the season when things are going good, when things are going bad, and we want to mess with people on Twitter. But I'm proud of what he did. I'm proud that he stepped up, and he kind of realized probably that it's now or never, because I think if he would have continued that game, the rest of the game, like the way the first quarter went, he would have been this. Vrabel would have made the decision already that we would have been going with Malik week 3 had we lost that game and Tannehill, had an awful game. So he realized what was on the line. He stepped up, and players around him stepped up as well. I mean, let's talk about Chris. Is it Chris Hubbard, our right tackle? Is that his first name?
I'm glad you segued into the offensive line.
What an
Cleveland Browns
diamond in the rough we found. I think MPF might have lost his job. I mean, if he keeps it up, he has looked absolutely phenomenal. I was looking at his stats the last couple of weeks. I think it's only 1 QB pressure. I don't think any sacks, just holding it down on the right side. Shout out Dylan Radunes too, coming in.
Thank you.
First game off the ACL since last year, looked great. And I think you might be right, Jared. I think as time goes on, you've alluded to it in the past, this offensive line will, play cohesively, will gel. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Will gel. And hopefully, if they gel, it's going to make our boy Tannehill's life a whole lot easier. It's going to allow Tim Kelly's repertoire to really expand, because if you're giving your quarterback more time, you can get more creative with the play call. And listen, we did this without Skoronski too. We without Skoronski too. We were without 2 starting players in our secondary and our
3.
And our first round pick of this year. So 3 starting caliber players who are all worthwhile, in my opinion. So it was a positive step, and I think it's what Titans fans needed to see week 2. And we called it, though. It would be the most Titans thing ever to win this game. It really was after week 1.
Yeah.
We honestly should bet their games every week because they're so predictable. I mean, when they're going to win, when they're going to lose. And, but I've been ranting and raving, and I appreciate you for allowing me to do that, because
you missed the show.
Yeah, I was at the game live. You guys got to get me on during FaceTime after, but right before Nick Folk went on the field, and I mean literally right before he went on the field at the game-winning kick, a monsoon went over the stadium, and it lasted from that play to about an hour after the game, and me and Blaze, my buddy Blaze, were trying to find an Uber, and we were just in torrential downpours, and the streets down there are all clogged and blocked off, and it was a mess, but it was well worth it. And I know you couldn't get me on FaceTime because had no service. It was pouring, but what did you and Sal think of the game? Tell me about that, and what your thoughts were on specific players and the game in and of itself.
Just real quick with the game, like I said, obviously it was a thriller. We knew what was going to happen. Defense stepped up and everything. But really, I really wanted to talk about the offensive line because you segued right into it. And Dylan Ray-Dunes, man, he came in the first play after Newman gave up that sack. And the first play, if you look back, he drove a guy back 8 yards, pancaked the hell out of him. Dude, I can't tell you enough how much, like Vrabel says, he's putting in so much work this offseason from his ACL that he needs to play. And right now we have a guy, if we all want to be critical of players, can we be critical of players? I don't know. Sometimes we can't be, but we're going to be critical right now of our left tackle with Dilliard. He's not playing up to par right now. So you know what I would do? Plug in Skoronski right back in his spot at left guard and put Ray-Dunes at left tackle because he played very well against Nick Bosa 2 years ago when we played the 49ers. So I would give him a shot right there, okay? Because that solidifies more of the offensive line. You have Dillard and you have MPF. God forbid anything happens. So is that okay for calling, for somebody's head at week 3 going into the Browns against Myles Garrett?
Now, in college, did Ray-Dunes play on the left side or the right?
I think he played on the right side, but like you said, he stepped up for Taylor Lewan and played left tackle, and he played really good. Yeah. So why not give him a shot if Dilliard is struggling a little bit? I mean, he's a big man. It is week 3 going into week 3. The offensive line still has to gel. Like I said, I'm a big fan of it later on in the season. So we'll see about that. That's enough for the Chargers game because we could talk about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I just want to touch a little bit on it, sprinkle a little bit on the Cleveland Browns game before our next show on Thursday night. So there was a lot of injuries last night against the Steelers with the Browns. Nick Chubb snapped his leg in half. It was very gruesome injury. Prayers to him because we don't want to see nobody get hurt. But that was as brutal as Theismann's back in the day. I couldn't even watch it. It was disgusting. So prayers up to him for a speedy recovery because he's going to need it. Another one. Looking at my phone really quick. Denzel Ward, one of their top cornerbacks, he went to the locker room with an injury. Greg Newsome suffered an arm injury. He walked off the field. He's really banged up. Zadarius Smith, he got hurt. The Browns are banged up coming in to Sunday. They have a home game, obviously, but it's a short week, technically a short week against the Titans. How do you see them pairing up after this brutal loss to the Steelers against us?
I mean, like I said, we can call every Titans game, and I get nervous for the fact that it seems like everything's going our way now. Now it seems like everything's too good to be true. We should be getting Skoronski back. We should be getting Fulton and Hooker back. We're going into going into Cleveland to play a team that had just lost significant players on both sides of the ball. So as much as I want to love to say things have fallen onto fallen in favor of us, don't let this Titans team ever get you too excited because right when you get high, they'll bring you right back down. That's not me being pessimistic. We should win this game. Absolutely. Deshaun Watson is looking like a complete head case. I don't know what his deal is. He is not the player he was in Houston anymore. He's talent-wise, he looks like he's taking a step back. It looks like mentally he's not there. He did some, irrational things last night. Their whole team is banged up. Their defense is solid though. Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the whole league, in my opinion, and we'll have our hands full with him. But we should win this game. I think last week was a sign of what maybe this offense is capable of. And one thing I forgot to mention though, and I think Sal said something about can we get DeAndre Hopkins the ball more? Well, I'll tell you what. Not to call out Sal or anything, but he has 18 targets through 2 weeks. God bless. Wouldn't we have loved to see that with Julio Jones? I mean,
if he stayed on the field though.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but he didn't practice all week.
No.
He had a huge catch in overtime, the biggest catch of the game, in my opinion. And Tannehill was a great throw too. So he'll be fine. I give him credit for playing at less than 100%. But we're trying to get him involved early and often. I mean, 18 targets through 2 weeks. That's 9 targets a week over the course of, a 17-game season. That's, 153 targets, I want to say, if my math's correct. Can Sammy check that for me? 9 times 17, I think, is 153. So if we're going to target him 153 times throughout the course of the season, then that's what we brought him in for. So shout out to DeAndre Hopkins for suiting up at a less than 100%. And shout out Tim Kelly for scheming, plays to get him the ball. That being said, not to backtrack, we should beat Cleveland. I do have another shout out to Nick Folk. I mean, what a godsend.
I shouted him out. Sal crucified me on the live because I said, I'm going to knock on wood real quick again. Because I said, I don't sweat when he comes on the field anymore, because how many years have we been sweating kicks?
He was.
And he's like, that's a kiss of death. I understand it's a kiss of death, but it's so refreshing. I took the words right out of your mouth. I said it's refreshing to know that the kick. I don't want to.
Listen, 5 for 5 week 1, and then yesterday, what was he with extra points and everything included? 3 for 3. So 8 for 8, 9 for 9, maybe on extra points and field goals. So he hasn't missed a kick, and you feel like, why couldn't we have done this just like a while ago?
It was 2 for 2 and 3 for 3 on extra points.
Yeah. So listen, good for him. He is what we needed. Like you said, you don't want to jinx it, but like I said, I don't want to backtrack. But I had to shout out my boy Nick Folk. By the way, 9 times 17 is 153, and Sammy called me smart man, so I appreciate that, Sammy.
Listen, talking about the Browns a little bit more, the one thing that scares me is this Ford kid, 6.6 yards per carry, stepping in for Nick Chubb. I personally am not really worried that much. I mean, I just said I was a little bit, but our defensive front, I think, is going to hold him. We just held Kelly to 60-something yards. No one's running on this team. I'm going to knock on wood after the show. Yeah. No one's running on this team this year. We have a ferocious front that they're just going to force us to pass the ball, and we're just going to attack the quarterback. So I'm not worried about that. The one thing that I'm worried about, though, and I said it to my wife, who looked at me like I had 5 heads last night laying in bed. I said, man, the Browns scare me. Their defense scares me. Jim Schwartz scares me. He knows us so well. Vrabel knows him. So Vrabel knows what he's going to scheme up, because he's been with us for 2 years, and things like that scare me going into games like this. As we should win, like you said, but when you have somebody that was in your back pocket for 2 years and knows everything about your players, and that this guy can't cut this way, this guy can't shoot the A gap this way, this guy is a terrible 3 technique when he shoot, all that stuff scares me a little bit. So what do you think?
Listen, we should win this game. We really should. I think the formula is to get in Deshaun Watson's face early and often and force that head case to make a couple mistakes. And then I think we've won the game. If we can get in his head early, that disgusting, excuse of a human being, Deshaun Watson, let's call it what it is. I think that if we can get in his head early and often force him to make some mistakes, then I think we should win this game. I'm not really scared of their run game. Jim Schwartz, yes, but at the end of the day, you want to compare head coaches. I think the head coaches will won us this game in week 2. And Vrabel, in my opinion, is a top 5 head coach in this league. And I think he will outsmart not only Jim Schwartz, but Kevin Stefanski as well. And I'm not worried. We should win this game, but just when we say we should win this game and we're not worried, it would be the most Titans thing to make it just a close, ugly game that potentially sometimes we come up on the wrong side of it. But hopefully this past week was a sign of things to come. Our offense stays rolling. And, we won't put our predictions out there yet. We'll get there on our next show. But I feel confident going into this game, not only because are they going to be undermanned, but I feel like we might have figured it out, pretty quickly offensively. It was nice to see a jump from 15 points to 27 in 1 week. And listen, we could be 2-0 just as easily as we're 1-1. If a few different things go our way week 1, we could be 2-0 right now. So I'm not scared of the Browns. But the fact that I'm not scared of them and I think we should win also scares me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. And we're going to save some of the rest of that for Thursday's show that's dropping on Friday. So, guys, once again, appreciate you guys for listening. If you guys can just rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, same thing with Spotify and obviously YouTube where you're watching right now. Hit the like, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. And tune into our next show Thursday night. We have our sick picks, our locks of the weeks, and our game predictions. So until next time, guys, tighten up. And Sammy, send us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.